What's up guys, my name is Carlisle, and this is my 2013 Hyundai Genesis Coupe.
My name is Nikolai. I like to film and build cool cars. If you're new here, consider subscribing and hitting the bell icon so you stay up to date. We're gonna learn a whole lot about cars and see some pretty cool stuff. Let's jump into the video.
What's up guys, I'm here with Carlisle and this is his 2013 Hyundai Genesis Coupe 2.0. So he's gonna go and give you guys a good overview on the car and tell you everything about it.
Yeah, all right, so let's start up front here. So on the front, I have these canards that I wrapped in forged carbon. I actually made these myself to sort of put some aggression on the front end, because the front end of this thing is like super bubbly stock. So, and then I did the front lip on the bottom. That's also, I painted that as well. It's just gloss black, you know, spray paint. And then I did a tow hook and the Genesis badges because Hyundai badges are lame. And then I did a forged carbon wrap on the fenders and so on the hood and on the headlight eyelids. Really adds some aggression, and it looks really cool and sort of sparkly. Looks really unique.
The front end really, like, you definitely put it together and really made it more aggressive. As you said, it does look a little bubbly, but go ahead and mention your brand right here with these canards.
Okay, yeah, so I actually started building aero for anybody who wants it, really. It's called Infinite, at Infinite Official on Instagram. I do literally anything, so like splitters, canards, side skirts, diffusers, you name it. I think, you know, custom pieces really add some, you know, character to cars because everyone's running the same stuff now. So custom pieces really set people apart. So I like doing that for people.
Yeah, it's super cool how, you know, you make your own custom touch, because when you have a vision for the car, you really want to do it exactly how you want it. And when another manufacturer makes the part, they kind of made it how they wanted. But when you have your own brand, you can really kind of, you know, form it to what you want, and it really makes the car look good. So then moving on to the car, what are these wheels right here?
These are Audhan DSO2s. They're actually, I believe, work replicas. They're not very expensive for what they are. It's a good like stance wheel if you don't feel like breaking the bank, which is exactly what I was going for. My front is a 19 by 9.5 plus 22, and the rear spec is a 19 by 11 plus 22. So the same offset, no spacers or anything. To fit the rear, I had to use Godspeed camber arms because with the stock camber arms, they poked out a little bit, and there was some rubbing going on, and that's never fun. So
yeah, so it definitely really looks cool how it's like stancy, but also functional. So does it rub or anything like that?
no rubbing.
Yeah, so no rubbing. So it's definitely functional, as, you know, obviously it doesn't rub. So it's really good for the street. And then moving on, so what do you have right here? Is this carbon fiber?
Yeah, it is a Vivid carbon fiber wrap. It is their 2020 carbon fiber, I believe. They have like a bunch of different lines of it, but it's that one. Honestly, not too satisfied with it. It's kind of a pain in the butt to use. And it doesn't look super good, honestly. After I got it, I was kind of bummed, but that's why we're moving to forged carbon, because it looks way better, in my opinion.
Yeah, so the Genesis is a really cool car, but out of all the cars out there, you know, there's so many options, but what really made you want to get a Genesis, and really what brought you to it?
Well, at first I actually was going to get an 8.6 because I loved the way the 8.6 looked, but I really wanted something turbocharged. Because I wanted more power, and the 8.6 doesn't have any turbo models, so unfortunately. So the best thing was the Genesis or a 370Z, and when I was looking for cars at the time, 370Zs were still kind of expensive, and these were sort of getting down there a little bit, so it was like in my price range, and I really love the way the Genesis looks. I think it looks really nice. It looks sort of almost exotic-y compared to most stuff out there that's in the entry-level sports car area. So that's really what drew it to me, was mainly the turbo was the main thing, because I'm a sucker for turbo noises, so I just had to have it.
Yeah, and this car definitely has turbo noises. So you mentioned power. So how much horsepower does this car have with how you have it set up right?
With the tune and everything, it's probably making 295 wheel, maybe a little more, maybe like really low 300s. But, you know, it's like basic bolt-ons in a tune.
For sure. So what exactly did you have to do to the engine to get it to that point?
It just has an intake, a blow-off valve, if you want to count that as a performance mod, and then just the tune. And then the turbo back exhaust actually really helps too, because the stock exhaust has a really big cat that sits right behind the turbo, and that really chokes it up. So if you get rid of that, you get some gains there too. So
Nice.
it's probably around the 295 mark.
So what got you into cars?
It all started when I was really little. My dad really kind of planted the seed early. He was huge into cars, and I wasn't super interested in it when I was, you know, smaller, but as I grew and actually, you know, got a car, I got really into it, and then plenty of, you know, watching YouTube videos and whatnot, and really made me want to get into modding them, so here we are.
Yeah, it's really awesome how we kind of have this like passion and love for cars, and it really, I guess you could say it's a bad thing or a good thing, but it just kind of gets more expensive as we get on with it, you know, move on to real cars, but definitely a cool story.
Let's go and take this car for a drive. It's definitely smooth. And it almost has like a little chirp to it with it. Is that the blow-off valve that I'm hearing?
Yeah.
Ooh, it even pops a little.
Give it to the gas a tiny bit. Like after you do a pull. I'm just like big toe the gas, like barely hit.
Alright, don't think I'm crazy for this, but it reminds me a lot of the 8.6. Like, the sound is like, the burbles sound the same as the 8.6 to me. That's insane. It definitely sounds good though. I like it for sure.
Yeah.
Just right off the bat, the car definitely feels smooth. And being on Raceland coilovers, a lot of people hate them and say that they're like stiff or whatever. They feel really smooth. And my car's on Fortune Autos, and I'll tell you what, going over the same road, it pretty much feels the same. And it's really a comfortable car too. And I think one of my favorite things about the Genesis is that it's kind of the same idea as an 8.6, right? It's a fun rear-wheel drive sports car. It's got a lot of power to it. It's also really lightweight, so it handles well. It's got power to it, and really, you can still daily drive it. Like, it's not a problem to daily drive a car like this. You know, it's definitely plenty of power, and it's definitely smooth for driving. So I think that's super cool about it.
The biggest mod for performance is going to be the SFR Stage 1.5 tune. It definitely adds a good bit more power. I think it adds about, I want to say 65 to 70 horsepower at the wheels, which is a pretty big difference, because stock these make like 238 to the wheel, and with the tune they make about 289. And that's like on a basic bolt-on car, that's like intake and a catback. Mine has a full turbo back exhaust, which actually does a little more for performance, because stock, as I mentioned earlier, they have the cat that sits right behind the turbo, and if you get a O2 housing, which is basically like the up pipe on this car, and a down pipe, it really opens that up and you get a little more power. So I'd probably guess mine's making somewhere like 295, 300 with those mods. That's really the only performance stuff I've done is the intake, tune, and turbo back. And that's really all you need to have fun in one of these. I mean, you get like good power out of it. I mean, like 300 wheel is, you know, pretty fun on the street. I don't need anything more than that. I'm not trying to be a drag race king or anything. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a healthy amount of power, and especially with this car being rear-wheel drive and a really small coupe, I think definitely 300 horsepower is plenty. I mean, if you want to have fun with it, definitely you're pretty much set with that. So then, how does the car feel with all these power mods, like compared to stock? How much different does it feel, like driving characteristics and just, you know, things like that?
Okay, so compared to stock, I mean, you'll hear people talk about this all the time with any Turbo 4, is up top, they fall on their face. And this car definitely did that, because the turbos are really small twin scroll. And so when you got, you know, towards the upper end of the RPM, it would sort of just plateau its power, and it would just kind of stop pulling, and it was just kind of like the same thing. But with the tune, it really adds a lot more power over the course of the RPM range. So, you know, pretty much no matter where you are in the RPM, you have power, which makes a big difference with driving experience for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. So essentially, up to red line, you pretty much have power with it, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
It's fun. Oh my god. It's fun, but it felt controllable. And I think that's one of the cool things about the Genesis is that just in the nature of the design, you know, it's a rear-wheel drive sports car, it's a coupe, it's gonna be very controllable. And how much does the car weigh?
Like 3,400 pounds.
3,400?
Yeah.
Definitely on the heavier side if you compare it to like a BRZ, but I mean, I'll tell you what, it doesn't feel heavy at all.
Yeah.
Which I think is mostly just due to like the steering feel and things like that. Like, I could totally see myself daily driving one of these things.
The reason I got a 2.0T over a 3.8 is because mainly of cost of power. Because, I mean, my power goal for this car is right around 400 wheel. So, like, the things I'm going to do in the future is going to be, like, a Stage 2 turbo upgrade, an E85, and I'll pretty much be there. I'll have around 380 wheel, probably, with a little wiggle room. So, right around 400, that's exactly what I want to do. If I wanted 400 on a 3.8, I would either have to go nitrous, and I don't really like nitrous that much, because I don't want to have to feel like I have to refill something to have my power.
Yeah.
Or I would have to spend, you know, a ton of money on a turbo kit or a supercharger kit, and I really just didn't feel like dropping that much money if I was only going to go for 400 wheel. It doesn't make sense. So that's the main thing. If for anyone that's wondering how much power this motor can handle, the main thing to watch out for is the rod bearings, because the rod bearings tend to go out if you start pushing upwards of like 450. Like, it starts to get, you're in risky territory. The block on this car is pretty much, it's a lot like a Lancer Evo 10, actually. They share the block. The only difference being the Evo 10 has a semi-closed deck, and this has an open deck. So the Evo 10 obviously can hold more power with a semi-closed deck. That's just how it is.
Yeah, that's really cool how the smaller motor it's easier to make more power out of it, and that's mostly due to the turbo. But other than the engine, is the actual like chassis and suspension or anything like that, is that any different in the 2.0 versus the 3.8?
Not between the two motors, but there are lots of different trim levels that will change that. Like, there's the R-Spec has different tune suspension and the Brembo brakes. The track spec version of these have I think they have the same suspension as the R-Spec, but you can get the tracks with an auto, and the R-Specs only come with manuals.
Yeah.
So between the 3.8 and the 2.0, they're the exact same, besides the motor, depending on the trim level, of course.
Nice. And then, so this car is the auto. So how is the auto car, you know, like daily driving it and then also driving in Spirited, how is it?
So that's probably the main thing I got an auto for, was dailying it. I didn't want to drive a manual everywhere, especially because I drive a lot. And the auto feels good. I mean, it's an 8-speed. It shifts well, especially when you put in performance mode. I mean, it's a lot of fun, and it's pretty quick too. I would probably have gotten a manual, you know, even though I do daily it, but the manual Genesis Coupes tend to have issues, and lots of them. I mean, there have been people that have gone through multiple transmissions a year, and I mean, I can't really argue that. I mean, of course, that's, you know, somewhat probably going to be driver mod. Depends on how you drive the car, but just knowing that it's that easy to break a transmission on a manual car just didn't sit well with me. So I was like, you know, I'll just play it safe and get the 8-speed. It won't be as fun as the stick, but it's, you know, reliable enough, and it's fun enough as well.
Yeah.
So.
It's definitely nice. So do you ever feel like you're lacking? Like, does it ever feel lazy or anything like that?
I mean, the thing about this transmission that's kind of weird is first through fourth gear, it shifts hard like you'd expect it to.
Yeah.
But then once you get towards like 5, 6, 7, and 8, it sort of gets lazy, where it almost feels like it's rev hanging. And I don't know if they do that to, you know, keep the car sort of in boost, because I know a lot of auto turbo cars do that to keep the car in boost when it's accelerating. But it does kind of start to feel lazy up top, even though it does the whole rev hang thing. But
yeah. And that could also be mostly due to, like, when you're getting onto the highway, they just kind of want it to be smoother, versus when you're in lower RPMs, that's definitely when you would be more aggressive with it, you know, acceleration-wise. So I would assume at least that's probably why they would have it something like that. But otherwise, you know, it's pretty solid transmission.
Yeah, I mean, there's not many problems with them. I mean, they hold together pretty well. I think they can hold about 389-ish torque, which isn't bad. I mean,
it's a healthy amount.
Yeah, it's a healthy amount for a car like this.
Let's go and take it through this corner and see how it feels. That feels good. I mean, I felt confident, I'll tell you that. You know, a lot of cars, when you get up, like, it's almost like when you get up into a higher speed, they can feel kind of scary, but I feel like And it's the same way with the BRZ. It almost feels like the higher speed the faster you go, the more stable it becomes. And it doesn't feel like a death trap, that's for sure. I mean, it's definitely a very controllable and smooth feel. And I think that's one of the cool things about a car like this is just how smooth it is and just how controllable it is, because it's a driver's car. Like, it's meant to have fun and it's meant to be controllable. And I'm sure if you want to build it into a drift car, you could. If you want to have a lot of grip, you could. I mean, it really just depends how you want to build it.
People build these as drift cars pretty often now. A lot of people are really starting to discover the Genesis more as a platform, because before people overlooked it because Hyundai's brand reputation from the early 2000s was really bad.
Yeah, so people looked at Hyundai as a regular economy car brand. You know, they're just making cars like the Sonata, which, you know, they're just regular, like, they're good cars, but there's really nothing special to them. So when you have a car like this come out, people are like, oh, well, it's just another Hyundai. But, you know, I would say that this car kind of kickstarted Hyundai as a brand again, to show that, you know, they're a pretty fun company, especially with the new cars like the Veloster. And, you know, they really have these cool cars coming out that are kind of reviving the brand, you could say. Like, you know, Hyundai, without a car like this to start up the brand again, could have been dead. I mean, it would have been just a regular car company. But, you know, bringing in a Genesis is kind of like the main car in their fleet, you know, to kind of show off that they're fun and, you know, still care about the enthusiasts, which is super cool.
Yeah, a lot of people actually think they called it the Genesis as sort of like a new beginning kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's where that comes from, I think. This car has a really long wheelbase, which makes it really good for drifting, because that makes it really controllable when it's sliding, which is why when it spins, it's not scary. Because when it spins, it normally will maybe just kick out a little bit, or it'll spin straight.
Yeah, it definitely spins straight, so it kind of has this tug to it. And, it has a lot of power to it, but it's really controllable, and also the car sounds good. So I'm going to go ahead and downshift it a little here. I'm going to go ahead and do a light pull and do about half throttle here out of first gear. Alright, I lied. Going into third gear, I floored it, but it definitely has a lot of power to be smooth, and that's definitely... Oh, there it goes, it's popping. So why don't we do a third gear pull? I'll just go ahead and floor it. That turbo sound is just, I mean, with the blow off valve, it really, I like it. It's like a nice package, you know. It has everything that you'd want to have fun, so it's definitely a fun experience. And I'm sure, like, on a track or in the mountains, on some canyon roads maybe, this would be so fun. I mean, it's really cool. It's a driver's car. And how many miles are on the car?
90,000.
90,000?
Yeah.
Really? I would have never have guessed that. Wow.
Yeah.
So, yeah, for 90,000 miles, to not hear any rattling, that's really awesome. Like, my car's got 15,000 miles, and it's got, like, so many rattles. But, I mean, people know it for that. It's kind of not that good for it. But, you know, it's still kind of cool that a car like this can go 90,000 miles, and it's totally fine. So, you know, like you mentioned, 90,000 miles. How's the reliability been on the car?
It's had a few very minor issues, nothing huge. Like, the stock struts started going out at like 60-ish thousand.
Yeah.
But I think that was partly due to the last owner of the car. It didn't treat it very well.
Yeah.
This car actually has quite the story, because it was actually almost totaled. It was
Really?
like driven over a curb and bent the frame and everything.
Oh,
But,
wow.
Yeah, it has quite a history.
Yeah, so was that with you owning the car? Or
No,
was
that was the last guy that had it. That's the reason I got it so cheap. Was he
Really?
almost screwed it. Yeah.
No,
But,
so was it already in the accident and it was like bent, or how did that work out?
it has frame damage, but it's been repaired.
Okay.
Like, the car has basically, the whole front end suspension has basically been redone.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, if you look underneath the car, you can actually see where the frame was repaired. It's
Oh
like
my
you can see
gosh,
it, it's
yeah.
there. But you know, it's sort of like a character thing. It's, you know,
Yeah.
it's been through something, right?
For
It has
sure.
a
I
battle
mean,
scar.
Yeah, it's got a few battle scars to it, but I mean, it adds character to the car, and it definitely gives you a cool story to talk about, and it's a conversation starter, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But then also with the interior, like, you've got this NRG steering wheel here, which is a quick release, which everyone loves, especially for the ding, but it's definitely a very comfortable wheel. It's got, you know, leather wrapped, and I think it really sets off the interior and makes it look like a race car for the most part. You know, a lot of stuff in here is very race car-esque, but at the same time, it's very luxury and smooth, which I think is super awesome.
So there you have it. That was Carlisle's Hyundai Genesis Coupe. It's a really cool car, but other than that, if you enjoyed the video and want to see many more just like it, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.